African homes?
That is one of my biggest dreams. After we also just can't sit aside and wait.
Who's the leader? Do you have an organization?
Well, I have two partners that I'm involved with. One is Chonyo, he's also some.
J'ai tenté ma chance pour aller imiter, mais j'ai fait un retour au Sénégal et en Afrique pour investir en Afrique.
Another is someone that he's like mother.
Parce que la clé, c'est le financement. Nous, on se présente comme des social entrepreneurs.
When you grew up without electricity.
Put me in a position to be a lot more humble as a celebrity.
And we all remember how we tried to beat the sun just to do our homeworks.
Dandy avec ces mêmes difficultés où on se battait pour retourner à la maison avant que le soleil se couche.
I want to be in a position where I can utilize the gift that God put me in to be able to help someone else.
Naturally, you realize that energy was the major problem and the solution for it.
Il faut beaucoup d'optimisme, il faut beaucoup de persévérance, beaucoup de travail.
Because at the end of the day, what is important is the population. Because asking Akon if we choose content because of political reasons, we don't care about the political reasons. We care about the people.
The fact that you're getting on solar power to do it is just brilliant.
I mean, I thought it was just basic common sense. The sun is always there. We'll never run out of sun in Africa.
Depuis 2-3 ans, le prix des panneaux ont chuté. On est parti de 5 dollars le watt, aujourd'hui à moins d'$1 le watt. Donc ça, c'est un avantage pour nos pays africains.
Artificial light will enable more access to information through media and social media, while allowing small businesses to continue operating and spur the development of new enterprises.
Et au bout d'un an, on peut électrifier tout un pays.
We go, we electrify the village, and it's bright. Bright, I mean the brightest thing you've ever seen. We started off touring 7 countries in 7 days to present our initiative to 7 heads of states in West Africa. And we told them, or asked them rather, you pick the village that you want electrified so we can show you what we're capable of. You know, this is real, this is not talk.
Any project that we do, we involve local community, we involve local government, civil society, youth organizations.
On a pu venir $1 milliard, nous, le crédit fournisseur, et on préfère plus, et c'est là que
If you look at recently what we've done in many countries, we are trying to install, but also to maintain this lighting everywhere.
And you also have an academy in Mali, is that correct?
Academy? This will help to transfer knowledge and skills that Africa needs. So rather than energy, we're giving more energy. We want to make sure that the change we want to bring in Africa is driven by energy.
Absolutely. What's been achieved? We actually overachieved.
Au bout d'1 an, ce qu'on a pu faire, je ne vois pas une autre entreprise en Afrique qui a pu le faire.
It's words you can't really describe. You always have to be there to kind of see the kind of impact that brings. There's really no way to describe it much today. Well, ultimately, you can log on to AkonLightingAfrica.com and get all the information on how that can be.
AkonLightingAfrica.com.
Yes.
So as we've all seen from the video, a global recording artist is today changing the lives of millions of people around the world with his business and his dedication to making this world a better place. Please join me in welcoming to the stage, Akon.
So I want to get right into it, Akon. You got the winning formula for life.
you're famous, you're a celebrity, you're doing great things around the world, and then it all changes and you start doing amazing projects that are impacting millions of lives around the world. How did that come about?
Man. I'm just happy that I'm in a position to be able to do it. You know, growing up, sometimes you're put in a position where you dream of things that you would like to do. You know, music honestly wasn't my first love. It just happened to save my life later in life. And I think as you start to grow and you start making decisions, you start to realize how those decisions affect your life. And some of the decisions that you consider to be good at the time turn out to be bad decisions. And some of the decisions you turn or assume to be bad became great decisions. So in life you just learn, and as you learn, you develop, and you become something at the time you never really know what to expect from
The thing that interested me when I was looking at your profile is you were actually born in the U.S. A lot of people don't know this. You were born in the U.S. and you moved to Africa, where a lot of the world does the opposite. They go for Africa, they go for opportunities in America. How did that happen? How do you think that shaped you into who you are today?
Well, you know, my dad was a forward thinker. He always thought about our lives in the future. So like it's deep because those same characteristics kind of follow me because when we were all young, I was still infant when I went back to the Senegal. So by the time I came to the U.S., I didn't know the U.S. existed. I was in the States when I was about 12 before I came for the first time to the U.S. So it was one of those things where my pop wanted us to learn the culture, understand the language, just kind of know where we came from before he sent us back. But he also wanted us not to have any immigration problems when we got over this. That's why he made sure we had one in the U.S.
I quote you, this is a quote from you in an interview. You said a hard neighborhood in the U.S. was like a 5-star hotel for you growing up in Senegal.
Exactly.
How do you, does anything from that hardship sort of something you carry with you throughout your life?
No, I think the humility and the humbleness came from that side of me. You know, even like a lot of people may look at me to be a celebrity, but I just see myself as an ordinary person. Like, I walk down the street as if I'm a celebrity. People are like, where you going? You're Akon. I'm like, so what? I go to the movies, I go to the grocery store, I do all the regular things that so-called regular people do. I don't like to be shut in that category, but I think the humbleness came from that side of me because I realized that I was able to experience both sides. The part of life that people fight for it when they feel like it's the less fortunate, and then the side of life where you have it all, and yet there's still things that you're still searching. So one thing I realized in life is that people are never satisfied with what they have. It's an interesting cliche. When I was growing up in Africa, as a 7-year-old kid playing on the same barefoot playing soccer, I was happy. This was like the best part of my life. I felt like I had everything available to me, even though I had no electricity, even though I had no clean water. But I grew up under those circumstances. I had family, I had love, worry-free. Then I went to the U.S. Completely opposite lifestyle. But everywhere I went, there's large, sized buildings, cars rolling back and forth, electricity, clean water. But then I realized what I was missing. This is what I didn't have access to. So then the flip side of life is when I go back for summer vacation, I go back to no clean water, no running lights, no running water, to the point where I felt like I was being cheated all these years. Because back home, when I'm taking a shower, the water's warm, I can warm it up and adjust the temperature, these things. And I could walk into my room, switch the light on. It wasn't like that. So I was satisfied up until the point where I realized I was missing. And that's when things got very interesting for me.
And you talk about, you mentioned it a couple of times when you're speaking, lighting and water. And I want to move on to Akon Lighting Africa because, when I first looked at it, I saw 600 million. First of all, I want to know, why lighting? from everything that you could have chosen to work on, you picked lighting as something that you want to focus on to start. Why lighting?
Oh man, lighting is the most important element of life. There's no way without energy you can even begin to understand what life is. You know, especially in Africa, our goal was to, help to be the leading forces of the younger generation to help the development of Africa. And what I realized was development couldn't even begin without energy. Just the access to energy alone, there was no way we could, even begin to make a dent. So that's why energy became the primary source that we began to become energy right now.
And I remember you said when you hit, your aim, I think originally was $1 million. Then you said you overachieved that. And then you went from $1 million to a 600 million target. Now, does anything about that target scare you? I mean, that's a huge number.
No, I mean, $1 million scared me. And then when I realized just how many people in Africa had no access to electricity, that fear kind of erased just that quick. And then when I realized the need for it, and how fast that we were growing, naturally you were encouraged by it because you get the support from government, you get the support from people, and now major corporations are also supporting as well. So I realized this is a group effort. This is not something that one man can make a difference with, make a change. Like people of all sorts, all backgrounds, have to all come together to create a solution for it.
Do you remember your first light that Akon put up in Africa?
Well, the thing is, I remember the first light when I logo light.
Okay, the first Akon.
The first, logo with Akon Lighting Africa, Selectra. It was like, wow, we're a corporation. I felt like GE, It felt great, what I mean? So this is one of those things where it became part of that legacy building.
Yeah.
Now I can know that, the day where my name is just a name, I can know that I brought more to people's lives, just more than just singing and dancing.
And what do you want your legacy to be, Akon? Like when people look back on Akon and what he's done, what's your dream for the future?
Well, I mean, that's mainly the dream, to know that I was a contribution. Sometimes I look at the big names that passed on, all my greatest idols in entertainment, and whether it be athletes or singers or comedians or whoever, when they pass, their legacy is what they did. Most of them, they just stemmed and stopped at entertainment. I always felt like there should have been more because, my dad and my grandpa told me something that was something more important to this level. Just from a message standpoint, when you get the opportunity to have access to speak to billions of people, what do you say? That's the role that an entertainer plays. Like, I have access to a microphone, and every time I speak to this microphone, millions and millions of people hear it, and they actually have access to these words. So now imagine having that same access in action. If you get the opportunity to do something for millions and millions of people, what do you do? You follow? So these are guidelines that I follow just in my career. So this is bigger than Akon. Clearly my name will create the opportunity for the awareness to be built or create the opportunity to grab someone's attention. But then once I have their attention, it has to be something that actually helps or uplifts or creates change within a race.
When we talk about action, and the theme for this whole event is actions speak louder. Now, I mean, we've had presidents here, heads of government that are all talking real loud. We hear a lot of, great ideas. And we're all here as a youth that are sitting on the other side of those decisions, of those issues. How do we take action as youth, as individuals, as community members?
Believe it or not, we're doing it now.
Yeah.
Our biggest challenge, even starting with Akon Lighting Africa, was convincing our elders that we were capable of doing this. We go into these countries, majority of them are older. We have this respect level for our elders in Africa. The way we're raised, we don't move without getting our own elders' approvals, and we always have to get their blessing before we move forward. So every time we went into a country, we go see the heads of state, we get their blessing, we get their approval, and we get their advice. They went through things and can see things we haven't yet, got to that road yet. But at the same time, we also have, knowledge that we can pass on to them as well. So they have to be open-minded to know that as much as they teach us, we can also teach them. So our biggest challenge was just convincing them that we were capable of doing. So ultimately, as time started to go on, the younger generations, our way of thinking and how like we was always abstract. We never really did anything by the book. So sometimes an accomplishment can seem to be an accident, but actually was really thought out. It's just not the same tactics and organizations that they would do. So ultimately, we had to find the right fit for the two knowledge levels to come together. And that's one of the big things for what we're trying to do, is we're trying to find the best solution for the younger generation thinkers and inventors to kind of co-marry with the old school way of doing things, to where it feels comfortable and organized, but at the same time, it's very disruptive as far as making a difference in the changes.
So, if you had one message you could give the youth today, everyone who's sitting here, of what to do as soon as they leave this door, what would you tell them?
Well, the biggest message is this. We always clearly, and this is probably the most honest and the most direct I can be. As I was coming up, the biggest thing was doing what they wanted me to do. And I realized that if you personally aren't happy with what you're doing, you're never going to be great at it. See, things that we do for the passion, we do naturally without even getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So naturally, things that you do often, you become really good at it. And then the better you become at it, people will naturally pay you for those services. In this case here, it's the same thing in point. Our passion is always going to be the key to our freedom. But ultimately, freedom doesn't exist if we're in a position that we're not united within ourselves. So this energy crisis is way beyond just a thought. Like, this is not only our futures, but it's our kids' futures, and it's the world's future, because even when you look at the climate change and how things is drastically changing, if we don't come together now, as we're doing it, because it's going to be this generation that makes a difference, clearly, it's going to be a huge problem for us tomorrow. There is no future for the earth. Like, nature is not going to wait. Nature's going to go on further without us. The same way when dinosaurs were extinct, guess what? Nature kept moving. That's just a natural course of life. So we have to want better for our environment, because our environment at the end of the day is what allows us to be able to live freely and enjoy everything it is. So we have to all play a role, and we all have to unite. Forget whatever issues, whatever differences. At the end of the day, as the human race, we all have to live under the same globe. So we have to come together and make the right decisions for our world.
Thank you so much,
Oh, absolutely.
So we have a couple of people that are going to be coming around with mics. If anyone has a question, if you could just, there's Falcon over there with the mic, and we have another mic over there. So please raise your hands. We have anyone at the front with the first question.
My name is Omar Al-Saidi. I have a question for you. So this is a great initiative that you started about Akon Lighting Africa. What are your next plans after this?
The next plans actually is we're actually expanding. It's funny you say that, because now we've opened the market into Latin America as well, starting in Brazil. So we're going to start in Rio de Janeiro, into Bahia as well, in the favelas. So what we're doing in Africa clearly is the rural areas. And in Brazil, we're pretty much doing the rural area of Brazil. Favelas is like the rural areas, government don't go in there. So ultimately our goal is to go into all the favelas first world, Brazil, and eventually going to India as well. You know, we have the same plan that we focus into India as well. So this is just the beginning. You know, our goal was to see if our model worked in Africa. And if it worked in Africa, then it can work in any other emerging markets.
Maybe another question. Yes, over there, sir.
Good afternoon, Akon. How are you? I want to ask you, what do you think could we do for our environment in Dubai?
Well, see, the beautiful part about it is, when we look at the UAE in general, you guys are like the big brother of energy. Everyone comes here for the solution. Because you successfully, and this is, I could be wrong, but I'm saying from what I've seen personally, you successfully figured out how to take the energy crisis and utilize it to develop your own, like, area. Like the UAE is known for heaven. You ask anybody about the UAE, it's like heaven on earth. And we know that this is oil money doing this. I just wish that Nigeria could do the same thing. But ultimately, it's like, so you guys are going to be the leaders for how even clean energy is transformed. So ultimately, you know, the way I see it is, what you're doing now, even holding conferences like this, is a huge step towards clean air and a better future from an energy standpoint for the rest of the world.
Hi, I'm Jacinta. I'm a university student from Middlesex University. I'm also from Africa. I come from Kenya. And I'm really inspired by the work that you're doing. So my question is, what do you think is the next step? We have, now that you're doing lighting for Africa, what do you think the next person should actually do in terms of development?
Well, the beautiful part about it is that development is vast. And there's so many different types of development that you can, you know, be engaged in. If I'm speaking specifically on Africa, I think the next big step is agriculture. You know, of course, even agriculture you can't really fully implement without energy, but after energy, I think that should be the next biggest step, because Africa, outside of the resources, it has a lot of land and very rich soil, and can grow a lot of fruits, vegetables, and so on and so forth. So that's the next step. Once you tackle energy poverty, then you tackle poverty itself, and then from there, economy can grow very easily.
We have a question from the lady in front. Oh, sorry, there's a mic over there. We'll come at you next.
Assalamu alaikum, Akon. I would like to ask you a question.
Okay.
Sir, as a student, how can you contribute to your program Lighting for Africa?
I'm sorry?
How, as a student, I'm a student, I would like to volunteer for your program. So, can you do it?
Oh, how can you contribute? Oh, it's actually very simple. I mean, just log on to Akon Lighting Africa.com, and there's a lot of information on it as far as how you can be a part from a volunteer standpoint. And you can also be a part even from an employee standpoint. Just to make it very clear to everyone out there, Akon Lighting Africa is a for-profit business. It's not a foundation. The fact that it's doing so good for people and it's making a lot of effort towards, you know, creating opportunities and doing things that may seem to feel like a charity is because we marketed and promoted it that way. You know, this is a social entrepreneurship type of program where we're trying to only get into business that helps people. But we realize in Africa, charity is not what's going to help. You know, you have to be in a position to empower people, employ them, and give them the means to be able to do for themselves. That's the only way you're going to be able to get people out of, you know, poverty. It's not really so giving them, but giving them the tools to be able to get it themselves.
Do we have time for one more question?
Hi.
She's not very popular.
Do you have any advice for people of color struggling in the entertainment industry or really any industry?
Well, entertainment is one of those things where it's a long line. Everybody wants to be a star. So the key, honestly, is to be original. See, one thing I've encountered in a lot of entertainment proposals is that none of them come to me that's different. Like, it's always a spliff or splash of something that's already been successful. And if you notice, and you look at the history of just very successful entertainers, they always brought something into the business that make you remember them or made you want to copy that. So the key is to really be true to yourself, understand what you are, who you are as an artist, and don't worry about sounding or resembling like anything else or anyone else. Just try to do what you think you do best, and you become, you know, the lead in that realm. And that normally, sometimes it takes longer to actually jump off, but when it does, it's going to be something legacy that people will remember.
Thank you so much for your comment. We'd like you to spend just a couple more minutes to congratulate Design Future Energy. Right. So now we're going to short video that we're going to be sharing with you all on Design Future Energy.